In World War II, the deadliest enemy wasn't always the opposing army, it was the cold. The frigid winters of the Ardennes and the Eastern Front claimed more soldiers through frostbite, trench foot and hypothermia than many battles ever did. The cold seeped into every layer, turning gear into icy traps and sapping morale. Commanders quickly realized that warmth was a matter of survival, not comfort. Inadequate gear left men shivering, exhausted and vulnerable, sometimes ending careers with a single night's exposure. The psychological toll was immense as the cold became a constant, invisible tormentor. Keeping soldiers warm became a strategic necessity, forcing armies to innovate or risk collapse. The struggle for warmth drove a wave of forgotten but ingenious survival inventions. In the end, the fight against the cold was as personal and relentless as any battle. Early in the war, standard-issue sleeping bags were heavy, absorbent, and utterly unsuited for the front lines. Wool and kapok-filled bags soaked up moisture from snow, mud, and even the soldier's own sweat. Each night, these bags grew colder and heavier, turning into icy shrouds that drained body heat. Soldiers faced a grim choice: risk freezing inside a wet bag or shiver in their uniforms, exposed to the elements. Sleep deprivation and cold combined to sap strength and dull reactions, threatening entire units. The failure of these bags was more than discomfort. It was a direct threat to survival and combat effectiveness. The crisis forced military researchers to rethink everything about cold weather gear. The challenge, keep soldiers warm even when staying dry, was impossible. This urgent need led to a simple, brilliant invention: the sleeping tube. The sleeping tube was born from necessity, not high-tech labs. Instead of thick insulation, it created a protective microclimate, focusing on managing moisture rather than fighting it. The tube was a large waterproof sack, more shelter than sleeping bag. Soldiers slept inside, fully clothed with blankets or coats, shielded from wind, rain and snow. The design let them stay ready for action, boots on, gear close, and body heat trapped inside. It worked with the realities of war, wet, cold, and unpredictable. By isolating the soldier from the elements, it turned whatever insulation he had into a far more effective barrier. This shift from insulation to isolation made the sleeping tube a forgotten but vital lifesaver. The sleeping tube was functional minimalism at its best. A roomy, waterproof bag with a simple drawstring opening. Early versions used heavy rubberized canvas, later ones lighter synthetics. The key was impermeability. Keep water out no matter what. Inside, soldiers layered wool blankets and greatcoats, keeping insulation lofty and effective. The spacious design let them keep boots and rifles close, preventing freezing and ensuring readiness. The tube shielded against ground moisture and wind, trapping a pocket of warm air around the body. No zippers, no delicate seams, just a tough, reliable cocoon. It was a passive, fuel-free system that dramatically increased survival odds. In the harshest conditions, this simple cocoon was a soldier's best defense. The sleeping tube's genius lay in separating waterproofing from insulation. The outer shell kept water out. Wool blankets inside stayed dry and warm. The tube wasn't airtight. Ventilation at the head let moist air escape, preventing condensation inside. Wool's unique property meant it insulated even when damp, unlike cotton or kapok, which became deadly when wet. The system accepted that moisture was inevitable and managed it, rather than fighting a losing battle. Soldiers could crawl in wet, but the tube kept their core insulation functional through the night. Compared to traditional sleeping bags, which failed catastrophically when wet, the tube was forgiving and robust. It was a practical solution, perfectly suited to the unpredictable, miserable conditions of war. By prioritizing moisture management, the sleeping tube kept soldiers alive where other gear failed. Soldiers quickly learned to adapt the sleeping tube for maximum survival. They built insulating beds from pine boughs or leaves to block ground chill, then laid their poncho and tube on top. In snow, they dug trenches or pits for wind protection, placing the tube inside for extra warmth. Ponchos became essential, used as ground sheets or makeshift tarps above the tube for double-layered shelter. Veterans taught recruits to vent the tube properly, position openings away from the wind, and use packs or snow as windbreaks. These field hacks transformed the tube into the heart of a sophisticated survival system. Adaptability and shared knowledge made the difference between misery and survival. The sleeping tube's true power was unlocked by the ingenuity of the soldiers who used it. The sleeping tube's triumph was its holistic approach to winter survival. It repelled moisture, kept internal insulation dry, and let soldiers sleep fully clothed and ready for action. Boots stayed on, rifles stayed close, and readiness was never sacrificed for warmth. The rugged materials withstood abuse, and simple repairs kept them in service. No zippers to freeze, no seams to split, just reliable, durable protection. The tube's simplicity and adaptability made it a favourite among troops. It acknowledged the harsh realities of war and offered a practical, life-saving solution. The best designs are those that meet real-world needs with robust simplicity. The sleeping tube was not just gear, it was a lesson in survival by design. The WWII sleeping tube may be forgotten, but its principles live on in modern outdoor gear. Today's bivy sacks echo its layered waterproof design, while sleeping mats and modular shelters reflect lessons learned in the trenches. Ground insulation, multi-use ponchos, and flexible shelter systems are now standard for adventurers and soldiers alike. The logic is unchanged. Simple, robust solutions save lives. The sleeping tube's legacy is not in museums, but in every piece of smart, minimalist survival gear. It reminds us that the most effective innovations are often the simplest. In a world obsessed with technology, the humble sleeping tube stands as a testament to practical, human-centered design. Sometimes survival depends not on complexity, but on the wisdom to do more with less.